Welcome back to Reid Between the Lines. Great to have you back on another episode where we break down sports 4 different ways on our 4 Down segment. As always, we invite you to join us on our social networks at facebook.com/RBTL Sports, as well as on Twitter at RBTL Sports. We welcome this man right here. You've earned yourself the title of the best dressed guest we have ever had. That's Chris Curtis from the Montreal Gazette. Great to see you. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
To your right is Pierre Evans-Just, RBTL contributor as always. Good to see you.
Glad to be here.
And to my left is stand-up comedian Derek Senga. We've seen you all over the place, and I have to warn you, this is a PG show. So we got to keep you in line. All right, you ready to go?
I got it.
All right, let's do this. Talk about Nathan Beaulieu, the hit from Clarkson on Gonchar. There was a little bit of retaliation. Good for Nathan Beaulieu to stand up for his teammates. It's a great indicator. You need that in the playoffs. But I wanted to ask you guys more along the lines of the enforcer. In the NHL, you look at the Western Conference and how they get along with very little enforcement, some would say. Is there still a place for the enforcers in today's league?
Well, Toronto certainly seems to think so. You look at a guy like Clarkson, he sort of reminds me of, I used to have this friend, he played hockey until he started hanging around with some of my other friends, and then he started doing drugs. And he would show up to the ice, a little bit messed up, didn't particularly feel like playing, he'd fight 2 guys and get kicked out. That's what it looked like for Clarkson. He just looked like he didn't want to be there. He looked like, I'm going to fight 2 guys. I'm going to get the hell out of here. This team sucks. And
Don Cherry came out recently and said that, right? That one of the biggest issues of the Maple Leafs was the fact that they were lacking that physical presence.
I thought you were going to say Don Cherry came out. I thought he was.
No. I didn't say that.
Those suits were.
But I will
a lot
say,
of closeted feelings.
we won't go there. But I will say that I think in terms of the presence, it's so important. There are some teams that need that identity. And Press actually came out recently and said that if you don't have that enforcement, if you don't have that guy in the locker room, you open up the potential that guys will take a run at the goaltenders.
Yeah, but there's a balance between physical play and an enforcer. An enforcer doesn't really bring you anything else to the table other than doing some goon stuff. So
also, Brendan Press can play hockey.
Yeah, he's a hockey player.
What's Clarkson paid? 5.25?
Too much.
Too
That's
much?
Crazy.
5.25, and they expect him to get 19 goals, 20 goals a season on top of it.
You got to try to be realistic. In terms of Clarkson, the guy was only asked for 2.5 minutes and had 27 minutes of penalty minutes. So you're wondering, what was his role? What is his role? Do we need somebody like that in Montreal? Do we need that kind of players in the NHL? I don't think it's
look at the impact that a marginal player could have had on the game. He takes out Gonchar.
Yeah.
And then Beaulieu and him start going at it. And the way Beaulieu fights, which is just throwing fists, by the way, he will fight you on a golf course if he needs to. He's just throwing leather, and he's opening himself up to these counter punches. So if he gets one on the chin, then some marginal player just took out 2 of your best defensemen.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So that's, if you need a statement on the non-necessity for just pure tough guys in the game, there it is.
Would you rather have a team full of toughness where the guys will go to war for one another, but you'll risk that injury he was talking about? Or would you rather have a lineup where you've got 2 or 3 guys who will keep you in check and say, hey, you know what? They call them rats. That's what Brandon Press used. It was the word rat. They say these guys are rats. They'll take a shot at our goaltender. You saw what happened with Carey Price last year and how much that could change the potential of winning a Stanley Cup. Would you rather a team of toughness or 3 guys that can really lay it down and drop it?
It depends what your team needs. You definitely have to look out for your players, though. When somebody take a run, it should be the closest guy. It doesn't need to be a Press or a Beaulieu. Like Gallagher would go after that guy. That's what I love about that guy. So you just can't let them get away with it. I personally like to have a goon on the team. It's just.
But you want them to be able to produce.
That would be good. That would be great.
Because that's morphed.
That's,
the role of the
more
enforcement is also morphed. It used to be the 3 or 4 guys would be able to get into a fight every night, and now it's sort of like we want you to fight, but we also need you to put up goals because every minute of your ice time is calculated, right?
Absolutely, and the game is at a new level. So I think the days of like Ty Domi and I don't want to mention Chris Donald because I love that guy.
But that's the balance that you're looking for. You don't want guys that are one-dimensional, that only do one thing. In this new NHL, where guys are faster, stronger, that are more cerebral, you want guys that are able to participate a little bit more than just fighting.
Well, we got these 2 guys participating, including yourself. Great to see you guys. Stay with us after the break. We're changing gears as we're talking some MMA and PEDs. You don't want to go anywhere. It's happening right here, right now on Reid Between the Lines.
Reid Between the Lines is brought to you by EliteSportsTours.ca. What are you doing this weekend?
Hi, I'm Anthony Stevenson. You're watching Reid Between the Lines.
Welcome back to Reid Between the Lines as we continue on in our 4 Down segment as we're discussing MMA and the epidemic of PEDs. There's a lot of cheaters. They're coming out of the woodwork, and we're discussing that on this week's show. We welcome back Derek Sega, stand-up comedian. Great to see you.
Nice.
Also, we've got Chris Curtis covering the Habs, Montreal Gazette. Great to see you as well. And to your right, Pierre Evans-Just. All right, gentlemen, Chael Sonnen, a few others have come out, and of course, Anderson Silva now being tested positive for PEDs. It's an epidemic. Something needs to change, but will it?
Well, I think right now we're seeing that the way they're conducting the tests, it's working. But I think we're missing the boat a little bit. It's not really, for me, it's not a surprise. It's a sport that's 20 years in its inception. For sure, guys were going to come out at some point and testing positive. People are reacting like they're surprised, but at the end of the day, these things have been going on from the beginning. It's just that the tests are more stringent now. They know who to test.
And when you look at Georges St. Pierre asking for Olympic-style drug testing when he fought Hendricks,
he was right.
He doesn't look so crazy now.
No.
You thought maybe it was
And
a
he was
marketing ploy,
outcasted
or
at the time.
absolutely, he was outcasted.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How could anybody have expected Anderson Silva to have healed that leg without?
I mean, 39 years old. What do you?
If that happened to me, I would still be lying down. If my leg broken, forget it.
The genesis for this controversy comes from this thing called testosterone replacement therapy, so
Absolutely.
TRT.
Yeah.
A bunch of these guys would go to a doctor, maybe a shady doctor, and just claim, look, I have this low testosterone, which is an extremely rare thing, and yet dozens of professional fighters in the UFC have low testosterone. So Chael Sonnen, Dan Henderson, Nate Marquardt, and the list goes on of these guys who basically were allowed to take some form of steroids because they had low testosterone. And so the first thing the UFC did that was semi-commendable after ignoring the issue for years was say, look, you just can't do that anymore. It's just not, there's too much of a gray area. So I think that's one step in the right direction.
But isn't it hypocritical in the sense that from the organizational standpoint, it's like, well, you can't do this, and they've kind of turned a blind eye to it, and now all of a sudden the guys are being caught. Now it's when they're stepping in, they're saying, okay, we need to bring on new rules, stricter regulations.
It's not only that. I mean, they did the testing before the fight. They knew, like, that someone somewhere knew that Anderson Silva
isn't that the most-
and yet they go ahead with it.
That's a problem in itself.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but in all of this is the most worrisome comment, is it not? With regards to Anderson Silva,
you're letting basically a guy that's coming into the octagon, into the ring. It's a weapon. He's coming in there. It's an unfair advantage, and they knew about the test before. And
I believe Ronda Rousey said that as well. Did she not? She came out recently and said, like, these guys are bringing weapons.
They're
into
bringing
the cage.
weapons. It's dangerous, and it's as if the Nevada State Athletic Commission and the UFC is waiting for a tragedy to happen to react.
I don't believe a boxing commission is corrupt, not for a second.
I think
There's sarcasm.
the best way to solve the problem is just change the rules and make it legal. Not mandatory, but it's legal now. Everybody can do steroids. No one's got an unfair advantage.
Brendan Schaub came out recently and said exactly that.
It's called the Ultimate Fighting Championship.
Yeah.
But
There should be allowed weapons.
The Ultimate Fighting Championship.
It's bringing nunchucks and stuff.
It's that balance that I think that is it a moral issue? Is it an ethical issue? I believe that it's not. I don't look at it as a moral issue. At the end of the day, you choose to do whatever you want to do, but it's an ethical issue. And if you allow all these guys to come in on steroids, it's what kind of message are you sending out to the youth out there? People practicing these sports.
In the NFL, you see this in the NFL as well. The on-field product looks amazing.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
But yet the repercussions of what that does to the lower tier guys who says, look, I'm not going to get a title shot unless I use. I'm not going to be able to contend if I don't use. I'm not going to be able to break 1,000 yards if I don't use. I'm not going to be able to run as fast. So the pressure's there, absolutely. And I think there needs to be change.
But at the end of the day, this isn't, I hate when people say that. But at the end of the day, anyways, this isn't.
No, it's true.
It's not, you're not winning a race, you're not getting more yards. You're hitting people in the face.
Exactly.
And if you have an advantage there, it's extremely dangerous. I mean, we're pushing our bodies as far as they can go, and the results can be fatal.
One guy pushing his body is the legend Jaromir Jagr, age 43 years young. And as we come back from break, we're going to be talking about him as we discuss, is he a pretender or contender to come to Montreal? A lot of Habs fans are excited about one of the best coming to our hometown. Stay with us. All that and more happening right here on Reid Between the Lines.
Reid Between the Lines is brought to you by Diadora. Available at diadora.com.
Galchenyuk and Gallagher were not born when Jaromir Jagr made his debut in the National Hockey League in 1990-91 season. And there's a lot of trade rumors that he might be coming to Montreal. In this week's Pretender Contender, we're talking Jaromir Jagr. We welcome back this man right here, Chris Curtis. You write for the Montreal Gazette. Great to see you. To your right is Pierre Evans-Just, always a pleasure. And to my left, Derek Seguin, stand-up comedian. Great to see you. All right, gentlemen, 43 years old, can still bring something to the ice. Montreal Canadiens need someone who can hold on to the puck. They're ranked in the bottom third when it comes to possession. Is Jaromir Jagr a pretender or contender in Montreal? I'll start with you.
I would say their biggest hole, I would say first that I believe he's a pretender. This scenario is a pretender scenario. He's still a good forward, but if he was on the Canadiens right now, David Dernay would have more points than him, so that sort of says a little something. And
but he would be ranked 6th in scoring, which is not that bad. He'd be tied with Markov.
It's another guy who can. It's another guy who can produce points, but I still believe their biggest weakness is at the blue line. They're allowing so many shot attempts, and it's dangerous. And the other thing is, what will New Jersey want for this rental player? He's not coming back next season.
What about a Christian Thomas?
Yeah, it's possible, but I also believe for myself that he's a pretender. Money-wise, it doesn't make sense to me either. And for a rental, I think Bergevin has learned from the Vanek experience that do you really want to gamble for a rental for 1 year? If you don't go all the way and win the cup, was it really worth it? And I don't think at that point of his career, just turning 43 years old, I don't think that's worth it.
But what if you do go all the way to the cup, right?
Yeah,
it would be totally worth it.
So you're a pretender.
I say totally contender, man.
Contender. That's right, yeah.
He's Jaromir Jagr, guys. It's not Vanek. Who the hell is Vanek?
Right.
Yeah.
This is Jaromir Jagr. He's a winner. Even I'd say let him take a break, buy him, whatever, get him. Take a break until the playoffs start. There, Jaromir again.
Go
to Colorado. Make sure you got good lung capacity, and then we'll put you in the play. He's Jaromir Jagr.
But at the end of the day, is that piece. Let's say they do add Jagr. They still have problems with the blue line, like you mentioned, and they need players to fill that void. So, just if they don't go ahead with Jagr, I think there's guys that they can plug in that can fill that role, that can get the amount of points that he can get.
I think
that
now
he
that
could have gotten in the
I
past.
think Kane. Now that Kane is off the market, I think that
Kane would have been a good piece.
Yeah, but again, these big acquisitions might not be working for the Montreal Canadiens. We saw that with Vanek. We saw how that failed.
It was more a rental.
I do believe he's a pretender because of the fact of what he brings in terms of leadership.
Yeah.
Anybody in this league will tell you that if they see Jaromir Jagr practice, whether it's practice, his work ethic, his media, I mean, the guy's flawless across the board, and he leads by example.
Yeah.
We've got such a young nucleus. Such young guys, young nucleus of teams. Would you not want to bring that, that experience? Would that not in itself be worth something if they do a deep cup run and you've got a guy like Jaromir Jagr, and not to count Sikac and Plekanec are from the same hometown, which I believe is Kladno. B, you've got him on the power play, which could be a huge asset for you, especially when you figure with regards to puck possession on 5-on-5. He brings a lot of skill sets. He might not necessarily need to bring points to the table to bring something valuable.
And our locker room is already healthy, though. So you put a leader like Jaromir Jagr in there, these guys will all, it'll just emotionally take them up to play better with Jaromir Jagr.
You want to know what Jagr and Vanek have in common? Terrible gambling problems, both of them. So do you want that in Montreal? No, I don't know that they need more leadership in the locker room. I think that situation
they're strong on that point.
is developing organically. At the end, what does he bring to the table? He brings a little bit more offense, and I mean at this point a two-way game that is fading. So I would say given the fact that we're talking about this rumor. Almost all of the rumors surrounding this team never come true. Bergevin keeps his cards so close to his vest. I would guess that if there is a trade in the works, it might be with Chicago, it might be with Edmonton, and odds are it'll be something like a Diaz for a Weiss, just a small piece. I don't know that the Canadiens will do a blockbuster trade.
For argument's sake, let's say he did come to Montreal. You clearly do not see him as a top 6 forward on the team.
They'd probably put him in the top 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Weiss would probably go down, and he's a top 6 forward.
No,
for sure.
Weiss.
Is there a piece? Could he be the missing piece though? I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, Jaromir Jagr, he's not for you. It's literally there's not much you can bring.
I agree. I don't think it's enough for them to go all the way. I think they still have some weaknesses that need to be need to be filled. Stay
right there. After the break, we're changing gears. We're going back to MMA as we discuss Anderson Silva. Now that his legacy is tainted, is he the greatest of all time? Is he a pretender or a contender? Stay with us.
Read Between the Lines is brought to you by Tilmar.ca. Innovative designs in the ceramic industry.
Right, hello there, Boss Rudin here, aka El Guapo. El Guapo, what would El Guapo say? He would say, Buena suerte y disfruta de las fiestas, but right now that makes no sense. That's Godspeed and party on. Boss Rudin would say, you are watching Read Between the Lines. Woo!
We continue on right here at Reid Between the Lines as we discuss Anderson Silva. Is he still the greatest of all time? Pretender or contender? We welcome back Chris Curtis, Pierre Evans-Just, and Derek Seguin. Great to see you guys. All right. Tough to say, one of the greatest fighters of all time. You talk about Anderson Silva, Georges St. Pierre, Fedor Emelianenko. Now that we've heard everything that's come out, is he still the greatest of all time in your opinion? Pretender or contender?
Well, for me, we'll start with he's a pretender. I never consider him the greatest of all time. That's just my opinion. I believe my greatest of all time list changes every now and then. Sometimes I have George, sometimes I have John Jones. At the moment, I consider John Jones to be the greatest of all time, due to the level of competition, guys that he has faced, the number of world champions.
Right, but
beaten.
where does longevity kick in, though, right?
Well,
John Jones doesn't have anywhere near the same longevity, plus
Absolutely.
the amount of fights fought in the UFC, plus the amount of title defenses as well. I mean, you're giving a lot of credit to John Jones for the amount of fights.
Who was Anderson Silva really beating?
Exactly.
I mean, James the Sandman Irving. Does anyone know who that guy is? He's like fixing cars now. Patrick Cote.
Latest in Montreal.
Latest might actually
on his
be
back.
one of the more impressive title defenses. If you think about what he's doing right now, Talis Latest might be one of the more impressive.
Making a comeback.
Ones. Chael Sonnen. What's Chael Sonnen ever really done outside of steroids era Chael Sonnen? You look at his legacy and you think he was a really flashy fighter. He was so much fun to watch. I enjoy all of the entertainment and joy and frustration he brought into my life. But as far as greatest ever, I think John Jones right now is the he's leading the pack there.
Georges St. Pierre, Derek.
I'm a huge Georges St. Pierre
Yeah?
fan. Yeah, I don't even know a lot of these guys you guys are mentioning. I just always watch. Oh, that's the guy that got beat up. Yeah. But Anderson, I say contender for Anderson. He's always been a solid. He's entertaining to watch. I mean, that's what the sport is, really. It's great fight. This last fight wasn't even great. So steroid Anderson seemed less exciting and confident than, So the whole steroid issue, again, is these guys are, it's crazy what these guys are doing.
Right.
So I don't know how they could do it without some kind of medicine to cover yourself in polysporin is not going to do the trick.
We were talking before as well with Anderson Silva in terms of the fact that they knew he had tested positive prior. There's no way of getting out of this for Anderson Silva. I mean, this is really ugly for him, and they're going to be in damage control over the next couple of days. There should be some big announcement from Dana White. With regards to Anderson, though, if he does come back for whatever reason, they do let him back, and it's ironic because there was a quote by Anderson Silva, which I'd like to read to you guys. And his quote states, "When the guys test for steroids, they should have no more fights," says Silva. "When you use the steroids, you use them for a long time. When you use the steroids for a long time, you have a problem. It's a drug, and it's not good for the sport." This is coming out of the mouth of Anderson Silva.
Yeah. And he's right.
And he's right.
He's
but
right.
how hypocritical is that of him? And if he does come back, is he ever going to be able to brandish that image, be able to bring him back to where he was prior to this whole incident?
Not at that point of his career. What is he, like 39 years old, almost 40 years old? He's done his mark, and now that latest incident, it has tarnished his legacy for forever because he doesn't have the time to get the amount of fights to somewhat to redeem himself.
Yet he signed on to a ridiculous amount of fights in the UFC.
And he's not going to fight.
He's not going to.
He's not going to.
Listen, when I said that, I didn't know I was going to take steroids later on. So is there any way we can get into a time machine and take that back?
I'm for sure that he's going to come back with the story being that, it was just part of my rehab to get my leg fixed or whatever.
Yeah, but the public itself and the people in charge, the people at the commission and the people in the UFC, do they believe that it was a one-time thing? And he said it himself in the quote. When the misconception with steroids is that you take it once or you take it twice, you stop taking it and you're off and you're clean.
Right.
You've taken steroids, it forever changes the way your body functions that moment forward, and he has to live with that stigma.
I think he's his legacy in the end. He's a guy who came along when the UFC was just about to explode.
Yeah.
And he wrecked Chris Lieben, Rich Franklin, and it looked amazing. And he's a guy who had this really unique skill set. It was exciting. It was thrilling.
A true mixed martial artist.
And you can never take that away from him. I
don't
don't believe he was on steroids back then. I think your theory about how he was taking it to heel makes the most sense.
Absolutely.
But you can't take his legacy away. I really do believe he was a necessary fighter. He was an exciting guy. There were some, his comeback fight against Chael Sonnen is one of the best of all time. It's hard to take that away from him, but unfortunately, this will always be the asterisk next to
That's
it.
what I was going to say. One of the greatest of all time with an asterisk next to it. Great to see you, gentlemen. You too. Thanks for taking the time for being on the show. Start with you, Derek. You got a lot of stuff coming out. We see you on CBC, Just for Laughs, the whole 9 yards. Where can people catch you?
I'm a huge success, Adam.
And humble, by the way. And humble.
Well, you could, my calendar's on my website, so dereksagan.com. You can find out when I'll be coming to a city near you. And yeah, that's it.
Congratulations.
Thank you,
Continued
man.
Success.
Cheers, thanks.
Chris Curtis, we see your stuff on a regular basis. Congratulations. Where can people catch more of it?
The Montreal Gazette. So please read. Please follow me on Twitter at Tito Curtis. I have a lot of emotional stake in this game.
Shameless plug. Shameless plug.
I just need it. I need it.
Stay with us. We continue on as my rant is up next. You don't want to miss it.
Read Between the Lines is brought to you by enconfiance.ca. Find your dream home. Read Between the Lines is brought to you by lavalcosm.com. It's ball hockey time.
This Monday saw ESPN Magazine's latest issue shed light on a topic long since operating in the shadows: gambling in sports. It all stemmed from NBA Commissioner Adam Silver bringing the long taboo topic out into the open back in November, when he wrote an op-ed piece in the New York Times in favor of legalizing sports betting. Well, it's not without its share of controversy. If you read between the lines, it's clear that legalizing sports betting is both inevitable and necessary. For one, it's already widespread. Popular fantasy sites like FanDuel let you bet on everything from MMA to NBA. And call it whatever you want. Fantasy, sci-fi, rom-com, rotisserie. At the end of the day, it's all gambling. And all of the major sports leagues both promote and profit from FanDuel. In the case of the NBA, they already own a part of it. So why not just quit the charade and have more involvement and oversight? My second point, with the illegal tab comes criminality. And that's been the case since the beginning of time, from everything from booze to brothels. For sports gambling, that means an industry flooded with the unregulated offshore sites and street bookies, both of which are heavily dominated by organized crime. That puts you, the client, in danger, financially or in some cases physically. Third, and most importantly, is the positive impact a potential 10-digit windfall sports betting revenues can bring to both basketball and the community. Think of how it could help struggling high school basketball programs. Programs like St. Joseph, a successful basketball program under constant threat of being shut down because of cash struggles. Coach Bob Hurley has to travel across the country, hat in hand, asking each year to raise enough money to keep it afloat. And that's a crying shame. Just a sliver of the money from sports betting would erase any of those worries. Think of it. Think of how it can help the youth through funding new community centers and after-school high school programs. Programs that give kids a place to be kids instead of being on the street. Not only does the NBA need to attract new generation of fans that way, but they also need to make a real impact in their lives. A win-win, if I've ever heard of one. Now, the debate isn't closed and nowhere near being over. In fact, it's just heating up. But here's to rational minds coming together and finding a way to legalize sports betting. We'd love to hear your over and under on sports gambling as we invite you to read between the lines. On behalf of the entire team, thanks for being with us. We'll see you next week.
Catering services courtesy of piattorustico.com. Authentic Italian cuisine. Adam Reid's wardrobe provided by Carve. Available at carve.ca. Salon services powered by Glam Atelier, La Maison de Beauté. Guest of the Read Between the Lines show stay at the Holiday Inn Express and Suites, Montreal Airport. Transportation services by AmbianceLimousines.com.